All right, what is up, everybody? Clayton Sayfie here from the Wolverine.com and with Austin Fox, EJ Holland. We were all on the road last Friday. EJ was at a game on Saturday, seeing Michigan targets, seeing Michigan commits out on the road, watching some high school football. So it was fun to be out there watching live action once again. So we're just going to kind of recap everybody's games that they were at and what they saw out of these Michigan recruits. So we'll start with Austin Fox, Mr. Fox. Give us your thoughts. You saw Michigan commit Giovanni Alhatti, Rivals 100 prospect over there, Sterling Heights Stevenson. Give us the rundown. What'd you see out of him? How was that game, and how much did you enjoy seeing some live football again?
Yeah, it was finally good to see, like you said, live football action after this long delay that we've had. But it was good to be back out on the football field. You talked about Giovanni Alhatti. He's rated as the number 54 overall player in the country, but I'll be honest, I don't think he looked like a top 100 kid. I expected him to dominate. They played Utica Eisenhower, and it was basically a turnover fest. Neither team could get anything going offensively. Alhatti started the game at right tackle, and they played him at both right and left tackle throughout. But again, he didn't really dominate. He didn't have that nasty edge or that mean streak that you like to see from offensive linemen. He also played defensive tackle throughout the entire game, so he really never came off the field except for on special teams. He admitted afterward that it was a little exhausting at times, and I can see why, because he was on the field for basically every snap. He made the biggest impact actually at defensive end. One of his teammates got hurt at defensive end, and they put him there in the fourth quarter. And again, that's where he made the biggest impact, with Stevenson leading 7-3 and Utica Eisenhower attempting to put together a game-winning drive with only 3 minutes left. Alhatti basically had the game-ending sack. He sat Utica Eisenhower up with a 3rd and 32, and again, that basically ended the game. They never came close to converting. I talked to him afterward, and he said that even though he has excelled as a defensive end in the past, the Michigan coaches 100% see him as an offensive tackle. They said they'd like to play him on both the left and right side, so his future is definitely as a tackle. He showed a lot of good things. He was by far the biggest player physically on the field. He stuck out like a sore thumb in a good way. So physically, he has all the traits, but I do think he needs to get a little meaner and a little more nasty out in the field and really dominate his opponent. Again, he didn't really do that on Friday, but the physical tools are there. But I think a top 60 rating for him like he has now is a bit on the high end, and I wouldn't be surprised to if he's a little raw once he gets to college and takes some time to develop. So as of now, I think a top 100 rating is a little bit high for him.
Do you think some of the maybe not struggles, but not being as dominant was just with the longer off season and maybe not having that type of conditioning, or was it different? Was it more so in the style that you think he plays at?
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. That was Stevenson's first game of the year. It was the season opener. There had been some reports that he hadn't practiced leading up to the game. So rust is to be expected, and that's normal. So I'm not putting a ton of stock into the performance because, again, it was one game. But at the same time, others, I know EJ Holland has seen him play where he reported basically the same thing. He needs to get a little meaner and a little nastier. So with that being said, I do think he needs to get meaner in that regard. But again, it was the opener. It was the first game. So a little bit of rust was to be expected with his performance.
Definitely. And we'll kick it to EJ here. So, EJ, you had quite the weekend traveling from Chicago up to Traverse City, beautiful Traverse City, Michigan, for Traverse City Central against Traverse City West, and you were on hand to catch Rivals 100 2022 linebacker Joshua Burnham, one of the top targets there for Michigan in that class. Your thoughts from, I know you had some struggles there with Enterprise, but you finally got up. You're able to get to the game, and your thoughts of seeing Josh Burnham. I know he absolutely dominated in a blowout win.
Yeah, for sure. Almost didn't get there because Enterprise ran out of cars. But before I hit on Josh, just to go back to Austin, Austin's point really quick. Like he said, I saw him play last fall in the playoffs against Cass Tech, actually. And it was kind of the same thing that Austin reported. And so it was a little concerning to hear that he didn't really improve his aggression or his ability to finish blocks. So that's what's concerning to me. Yeah, it could have been rust, the fact that he was going both ways, but you still, from a top 100 guy, you want to see those dominant blocks. Alhatti's built like kind of like someone on our board was like he should be on the cover of like Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, because for a lineman, I mean, he looks super athletic and sculpted, and he has all the tools to be a 3-year starter at Michigan and a high NFL draft pick. But it's just that that edge, that nastiness that needs to come with his physique. And so I really want to see him before the end of his senior year play with some more aggression. So hope to see Alhatti in the playoffs again later in the year. But back to my game, I Friday made that long drive out there. It's about 5 hours from Chicago, so it took me a little while to get there. And it was worth it to see the Josh Burnham show. He is a very, very promising looking athlete. I mean, the dude scored 6 touchdowns and he's a linebacker. So he started at quarterback. He played some receiver, also punted, and played linebacker, of course. So as an athlete, I mean, it's hard to find a guy as versatile as Burnham. He threw for 4 touchdowns. He caught 1, and he also rushed for 1. And as a runner, he's so powerful. He runs with great physicality. So he brings that linebacker mentality to the offensive side of the ball. And I told him after the game, I was like, man, I didn't think you could throw like that. I mean, tossing 4 touchdowns was pretty impressive to me. And he only played 1 play at receiver, and it was the touchdown catch. It was a 4th and goal from the 10, I think, and they lined him out wide and just threw a fade, and he mossed a kid. So he was by far the best athlete on the field. And, he's rated as the number 152 overall player in the country, somewhere in that range. I think he's underrated there. I legit think he's a top 100 kid, a prospect that could be a top 50 kid when it's all said and done. I just don't think a lot of people have seen him out in Traverse City. So I think that's why he's a little more underrated. I think aside from Will Johnson, he's the best prospect in the state. And, at the linebacker spot, which is where Michigan's really recruiting him at, I feel like he's a guy that has such great speed, that athleticism transitions over to defense. His sideline to sideline speed, his instincts are all very pluses on his game. And then his just mentality, like he's a really smart, humble kid. Definitely not a social media type. Like I tweeted all these great videos of him, and he didn't even retweet any of them because he's a guy. Yeah, he's a guy that just likes to stay low key. He really hated answering recruiting questions afterwards. But I like Josh a lot. He's such a respectful, nice kid. I think he would be a great culture fit at Michigan, and I think Michigan has an early advantage for him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in Ann Arbor down the line. But I think Josh is the total package. I compared him to Sebastian Cheeks, who's another top 100 prospect and a key linebacker target for Michigan. And I love Sebastian Cheeks. I've raved about him on our site. And I think Josh is an even better athlete than Sebastian. You get those two guys, and you're already off to a monster linebacker haul. So Josh was very, very impressive in game, and I really hope our national team goes out and watches him play because it was definitely a fun time.
Yeah, so we'll be on the road each and every week here of the high school football season. Remember to follow our coverage over at thewolverine.com. Promo code BLUE60 for 60 free days. So, EJ, then you got up Saturday morning, made the drive from Traverse City to Detroit to check out Rahim Anderson, Rivals 250 Michigan center commit in 2021, and then some other top targets, Cass Tech versus Detroit King, Dante Moore for King, a 2023 quarterback. Start with Rahim, but give us a rundown on what you saw Saturday in that inter-city battle between King and Cass Tech.
Yeah, Rahim was an interesting one just because last year I saw Rahim play twice, and he was such a dominant run blocker. He finished blocks. He played with a nasty attitude. And then King, Cass Tech transitioned to just like a really pass-heavy offense. So he was pass blocking a lot and didn't have those opportunities to really latch on to people and bury them. Now, I did get one really good pancake that he had, and there were instances where he helped drive people back on double teams. But overall, he was in a lot of pass blocking, which was kind of cool in a sense because he gave me an opportunity to see something that I hadn't seen from him before. And I thought he was really quick on his feet. I think Rahim has worked a lot on reshaping his body. He looked leaner, like I said, quicker. So I think that he brings a lot at that center position on top of what makes him special, which is his leadership ability and just the cerebral part of his game. He's a really smart kid when it comes to football knowledge. I mean, he's a guy that goes to the bench and immediately recognizes what the defense is trying to do and then helps his teammates and helps his coaches make adjustments. So, and everybody on that team respects Rahim. Clayton knows that. We were out at a private workout where he was just, the most loved guy out there by his teammates. So he's a great leader and he's very cerebral. And I love that he's put in the work to clean up his body. And I think there's been a lot of talk about Rahim playing guard, especially with Greg Crippen committed. I think if you move Rahim to guard, he can play it, but if you move Rahim to guard, you take away what makes him special. I think he's a prospect that should stay at center after seeing him live as a senior. So it was good to see Rahim do something a little different. Aside from Rahim, Cass Tech is home to mammoth 300-pound defensive tackle Dion Walker in the 2022 class. Dion's a prospect that I really didn't like in the summer. I thought he was sluggish, carrying a lot of bad weight, looked like a big teddy bear. But I did write that he was a ball of clay waiting to be sculpted, and that sculpting came a lot faster than I anticipated. So he is coming along very quickly. He also cleaned up his body a little bit. He's still a mammoth. He's still at about 300 pounds, but he's moving really well. And he wasn't a teddy bear. I mean, he was aggressive. He played with physicality. He made a couple of tackles in the backfield. There was one play where Penn State defensive back commit Jalen Reed lined up in the backfield at running back, and Dion Walker just swallowed him. Like, he made Reed disappear, and he's a bigger safety. And like I said, he was out playing in the backfield, but Dion just absolutely swallowed him. And so I thought that was one of the more impressive plays he made. So really happy with the way he's coming along. If you want a 300-pounder with a lot of upside, Dion's your guy. And obviously he has the tie to Rahim. So a nice little early eval by Michigan. And then on the other side of the ball was Detroit King quarterback Dante Moore, who's gotten a lot of hype in the 2023 class. A lot of people consider him the top quarterback in that cycle. He's a prospect that Michigan fans might not be talking about too much right now, but are going to be talking a lot about in the near future. He made some wow throws that only elite quarterbacks can make. He was on the move a lot as far as getting out of the pocket, just because Cass Tech has some, not only Dion Walker, the mammoth, but they also have a lot of other 280-plus pound linemen. Cass Tech's pretty scary in the trenches. So he was under pressure a lot, but when rolling out, he made some special throws, especially downfield. And I just like his poise, his composure. I would have liked to have seen him sit in the pocket and stand there and take some hits and make some throws, but he's athletic enough to get out of the pocket to where he doesn't necessarily have to do that. I'd like to see him in a game where he's just standing in the pocket and doesn't have as much pressure. But overall, he definitely checks the boxes. I would buy stock into the hype early on. So obviously with him being in the backyard, he's going to be a top Michigan target in that cycle. So those were the three offered guys in that game that I had a chance to watch.
All right, good stuff from both of you two. I'll go now. Friday night, I was out at West Bloomfield against Oak Park. Obviously, Rivals 100 running back Donovan Edwards, really like the top remaining target for Michigan in 2021, was going up against Rayshawn Benny, Rivals 100 defensive tackle, who did not play because he had an injury. And that really hurt Oak Park, I'll be honest. It was a 39-0 blowout for West Bloomfield. But, I mean, that's a loaded West Bloomfield team with Donovan Edwards. He had 3 touchdowns on 9 carries, 41 yards, but they didn't really use him. He didn't really play after the first possession of the third quarter. This was a rout. So I was impressed by Donovan Edwards. He didn't get a whole lot of opportunity. They were kind of mixing the ball around, and they knew this was going to be a pretty easy win, especially with, like I said, Rayshawn Benny being out on the other side. But I liked his athleticism. He was a tremendous leader. He was really rallying those troops. At halftime, I was kind of near their huddle, and he was basically yelling at everybody, "This is a 0-0 game. You know, we're gonna put 70 on them." He was saying. I mean, they only scored 7 points in the second half, but running clock, and it just kind of got out of hand there a little bit late. A lot of backups in. So, but Edwards was a great leader. I was impressed. You know, I think a lot of people said, thought that there was a lot to be desired from Edwards in this game, but given the opportunity in 3 touchdowns, I'm fine with that game from him. He was at the Wildcat for all 3 of his touchdowns, so he's kind of showing off he can do that. He split out wide too, and showed that versatility. He's always been able to do that. So I was impressed with Donovan Edwards. And then the next guy, Dylan Tatum, 2022 athlete who's being recruited by Michigan, both on the offensive side of the ball and defensive as a DB and a running back. Dylan Tatum played a lot of slot as well for West Bloomfield. He moved around, and he's just a really fluid athlete. Like I said, moves really well, was blanketing his guy in coverage on defense, and impressed me even more on defense than Maxwell Harrison, who's a 3-star in 2021, committed to Kentucky. Maxwell Harrison had a sweet pick, but Dylan Tatum really didn't get a ton of action because his guy never got open. The only thing I wanted to see more out of Dylan Tatum was the ability to come up and make some hits. He did have one big hit in this game, but I mean, West Bloomfield's defensive front was just swallowing everything up, so he didn't really get the opportunity. It was nothing that he did wrong. And then Michael Williams is a 2022 kid from West Bloomfield, an athlete, the outside linebacker type. He was out of this game. He was hurt, so wanted to see him, but obviously disappointingly was not able to. And then the last guy, 2023 offensive lineman Herring, who is an intriguing prospect, projects as more of an interior offensive lineman there in 2023 at the center spot, but he played tackle the entire game, and he impressed me with the way he blocked. Like, EJ, you can attest to this. He's one of the nicest kids that I've seen. When we interviewed him at West Bloomfield at Picture Day back in August, I was letting you do your thing. You're interviewing them. I was behind the camera during that whole process. But he came up to me afterwards and personally shook my hand and said, thanks for coming out to see us. But during the play, I mean, this kid was blocking guys to the whistle. There was one time where he blocked a guy all the way out of bounds and let up right away, right when he was out of bounds. But he was mauling some guys out there even as a sophomore. So he impressed me. I think he needs to be a little more put together physically, and that'll come in time with him just being a sophomore. But I did like the way he played for what his body is now, for who he is now as a sophomore playing on varsity. So I was impressed with him. But overall, an interesting night. Lots of media there, lots of fanfare around Donovan Edwards. I think there was like 10 probably reporters waiting for West Bloomfield to finish up their post-game speeches and see these guys. So, and most importantly, talk to Donovan Edwards over there, which we got to talk to him, and he was pumped. And, we'll see what his recruiting process unfolds as. But I liked all these guys here that were able to play, especially Donovan Edwards, especially Dylan Tatum. And then Amir Herring is, again, an intriguing prospect that I would like to see. EJ, any pointers for me there out of my first high school game covering? What'd you think of R?
No, I mean, both of you guys were great, so we're looking forward to getting back on the road this week. All 3 of us will be back on the road this week.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. EJ is going to be at the big game this weekend. IMG against Ravenwood, of course. JJ McCarthy, Rivals 100 quarterback, Michigan commit. Greg Crippen, Rivals 250 offensive lineman. His center there for IMG going up against Junior Colson, Rivals 100 linebacker for Ravenwood. That game in Tennessee, so EJ's lucky he gets to go to Tennessee. Austin and I will be in the Detroit area. I'll be at Belleville against Fordson. I'll be watching Miles Rouser, former Michigan commit there in 2022. So, Austin, you'll be at River Rouge against East Lansing to see 2021 Michigan wide receiver commit Andrel Anthony. Are you excited again for week 2 here in the state of Michigan, high school football, and give us a little preview of your game?
Yeah, it should be good seeing Andrel Anthony, 3-star wide receiver, Michigan commit from East Lansing. I actually had a chance to spend some time with him this summer at a lake. So I got to know him pretty darn well this past summer, and he's just an all-around awesome kid. So it's going to be cool to see him go up against River Rouge. River Rouge also has class of 2022 3-star defensive end Devontae Miles, but he's on Michigan's radar a little bit. But again, Andrel Anthony is obviously the headliner here. He's 6'2", 175. He's only rated as a 3-star prospect, but he had other impressive offers from Penn State and Notre Dame as well. Notre Dame actually kind of wanted him as a defensive back, and he said he wasn't too thrilled about that. So Michigan State and Mel Tucker wanted him like crazy too. So I think Michigan grabbing him right out of their backyard in East Lansing made it even more sweet for Michigan fans in that regard. So he's not really, obviously not the headliner, and what's a heck of a Michigan receiver class with Christian Dixon and Xavier Worthy being the other two, both top 200 kids, Worthy a top 100 kid. But I think it's important not to forget about Andrel Anthony as well, because he's a kid who already has the body type. He probably has to add some weight. Again, he's only 175, but down the road, I'm expecting big things from this kid. He talked a little bit about Michigan, the current team as well, and how he plans to enroll early. He said that Joe Milton is going to be Michigan's starting quarterback when I talked to him over the summer. So that was in August already when he was calling it. And he said that J.J. McCarthy is the only quarterback he's ever played with who can literally make the ball whistle while it's in the air when you're playing catch with him. So that was pretty cool to hear. So it's going to be cool to see him in action live on the field this Friday. I've never seen him play in person before, but again, he's not the headliner of the receiving group, but I think it's important to not forget about him in what is already a heck of a Michigan 2021 receiver class.
Yeah, and, J.J. McCarthy's the only quarterback that he's seen that has his ball actually whistle through the air. That's going to change when he gets to Michigan, like what you talked about with Joe Milton, who has an absolute cannon for an arm. But I will be out on Friday, Belleville against Fordson, like I mentioned. Seeing Michigan, a former Michigan commit in 2022, defensive back Miles Rouser, who's one of the top kids in state. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table in terms of being a defensive back target, because he, like I said, he was a Michigan commit, but Michigan's still going after him after he reopened things. So there's still a good shot that Michigan would be able to be in contention there at the end for Miles Rouser. Out of Belleville. And then Kamari Landers, the offensive lineman, there in 2023, early look at him. So it'll be interesting to see those two guys in action, and excited for some more Friday Night Lights. But we cannot bury the lead here with EJ going over to IMG against Ravenwood, seeing your boys, J.J. McCarthy, Junior Colson, Greg Crippen as well, the Michigan commits. This game will be live on ESPNU. EJ, give us a little preview of your trip and what you're excited to watch out of these guys this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I've been keeping track of the weather in Nashville. It was supposed to rain on Friday. It looks like most of the rain's going to be gone by kickoff, so that's good. I definitely wanted to see JJ in some okay conditions, not having to throw in the rain. This will be my second time seeing Junior this season. I actually went down to Nashville for his opener in August. And I mean, I wrote a ton of great things about him. I mean, he is one of the top guys in Michigan's class, and he'll be chasing JJ McCarthy all night. Excited to see JJ live. I saw highlights of his first game. I watched most of his second game online, and I saw him live last year, but this is going to be an opportunity for me to see him up close with his national team. IMG Academy is the #1 overall team in the country. So really interested to see how he does on another big stage with so much talent around him. And, the focus has obviously been on JJ versus Junior, but this is a really important game for me to see Greg Crippen, because Crippen's one of the prospects that I haven't been high on. He's one that I feel like is overrated. I saw him last year with IMG Academy against Hoover, and I saw him at a camp before that as well. And, I want to see more from Crippen. In those two outings, he didn't really impress. So I talked to JJ last week, and he had outstanding things to say about Crippen. So I'm really interested to see how Crippen does in this matchup. And then IMG's home to a lot of underclassmen targets. So won't name all of them, but there's a lot. One guy I'm definitely watching is Tyler Booker, who I had a chance to see last year with IMG as well. Last year he played defensive tackle, and I loved him. I wrote all these great things about Booker, and he is ranked as a 4-star prospect in the 2022 class, but now he's listed as an offensive lineman. He's been playing along the offensive line, so interested to see how he looks on the other side of the ball. I mean, if offensive line doesn't work out, I think he could be a pretty damn good defensive tackle. He's originally from New Jersey. He actually knows Tyler Martin really well, who's Michigan's commit in 2022, Rivals 250 linebacker. And so they've been talking a lot. JJ's been working on him. Booker was supposed to visit Michigan this offseason before the pandemic. So he's definitely one to watch for next cycle, and arguably the most important underclassman that I'll be seeing this weekend. But hopefully the weather holds up. Should be a lot of fun, and Michigan fans should be able to watch along with me on ESPNU. But being at the game, I'll be really hyper focused on the Michigan guys. So I know on TV you might not notice some things that I'll notice on the field, as far as watching guys like Greg Crippen in the interior of the offensive line or Tyler Booker. So I'll be, keeping a close guy on all of those. And if you don't have ESPNU, like I have Sling, and I just found out last night that I don't have ESPN, even though I have NFL Red Zone. So I couldn't watch the Monday night game. So if you don't have ESPNU, you can follow me on Twitter at EJ Holland_TW, and you can see clips from all the guys. And then, you can also follow us for live updates over at the Wolverine. We'll have a big thread going in Austin, and Clayton will have updates from their games as well.
Yeah, so we'll be all over the place this weekend. Once again, like we said, EJ down there in Nashville for that game. Austin and I in the Detroit area watching Michigan commits, Michigan targets here in all the classes. Things are starting to ramp up in 2022 as well, so we're getting all that coverage over at thewolverine.com. Use promo code BLUE60. You get 60 free days. Get all of our insider notes, insights on these Michigan recruits while we're on the road this high school football season. But that will do it for this week, and we'll talk to you guys next time.